Then broadcast everybody now.
Hello everyone. We are so sorry. I think the participants are still coming in right now. We're so sorry to keep you waiting. Okay.
You can't see Amrita.
No?
No.
Can you see it?
No, click the 2 round circles down now. Have you clicked the share screen? Mein?
Yeah. Yes.
Share sound and share screen down. Yeah.
Able to hear?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Amrita Rajpal. I've been teaching for 22 years, but I've been learning my whole life, and that's why I have a company called Edu Learn Grow. I'm a sports nutritionist. I'm an avid traveler, and I'm an active Rotarian. I'm also the technical for the Early Childhood Association Mumbai. I'm founder Edu Learn Grow and co-founder ABCD Show. Hi, I'm Veda Dwani, also known as Big B. Big for the size of my heart and B for Bela, a fun-loving person with a great sense of humor and a passionate pickleball player. National Core Committee member of Early Childhood Association, founder and principal of Cosmic Kids International, co-founder Puppet Maestros, and co-founder the ABCD Show. The ABCD Show is a show where everything concerned with children is addressed. We're going to get in eminent experts whose opinions matter. We're going to introduce you to new products. We're going to have theories unfold into practice. We'll discuss mental health and wellness. We'll look at best practices. We'll give you parenting tips, and we'll explore tools and strategies to help you teach. So, if you are a preschool coordinator, parent, teacher, or anyone who has anything to do with children, this show is for you. So don't forget to like our page to know more about our events.
So welcome to the ABCD show, everyone. We have with us today Pooja Bhargava. She's a nutritionist and a health coach. So welcome Pooja on our show.
Thank you
A little
so much.
brief about Pooja. She's been practicing since 2010. She believes in holistic approach towards health. She provides her clients with a balanced diet, believing and practicing the power of food to cure all ailments. All well-planned workouts scheduled as to cure many of her patients. And she's also very passionate to train the teachers and the children on guiding them how to have the right balanced diet for their children. So welcome Pooja to our show and thank you for being
Thank you
with
so
us.
much. Thank you so much for inviting me for this show.
So
So,
Pooja, we'll go on. Yes.
you
I
can
was going to
start with
go.
the questions.
Yes,
Everyone's
yes, yes.
eagerly awaiting.
Really waiting. So Pooja, we know that the journey of the child doesn't begins from the mother when she's pregnant. Of course, the child starts eating from that time. So we'd like to brief the audience a little bit about what should a mother eat when she is pregnant. So could you throw some light on that, Pooja?
So, like you very rightly said, Bela, that yes, the journey of a child or the journey of a new human being towards his own health and a good lifestyle begins right from the womb. And this is where it becomes the mother's utmost responsibility to not wait for the child to be born and then teach him the ABCs of nutrition. Rather, instill those habits right there when the fetus is being there in the womb. So, the most important thing that I would want to say to all those women who are trying to get pregnant or who are pregnant is that the best thing, the best gift that you can give your child is a good health, is a life without any disease, is a life without any kind of ailments. And that only begins when the seed is sown. So while the seed is sown, if the mother herself is a healthy eater, is someone who doesn't fret over extreme approaches towards health. If you see, look around, there are many extreme approaches floating around now. Women really want to look good, and in the lure of looking good, they've forgotten how it is to feel good. And if someone tells me, I'll give you this particular pill, and you know that pill is going to get you look thinner in 3 days, I would just go grab that pill without thinking what's inside in that pill. But if I tell them that I am going to give you something to eat, which is right there in your kitchen, and I promise you within the next 3 days, you're going to look 2 inches less, they're like, oh my God, how can I believe that? I mean, we've always been eating kitchen food from the kitchen, and I've never been there. So how is it going to be true? So I want the mothers to actually first accept within themselves that eating right happens from the kitchen shelf and not from those drugstores, not from those extreme diet approaches. While she's pregnant, eating everything that's available at home, wholesome, nutritious, eating something which is in the form of ingredients and not in the form of a packet food. That is what is going to first instill this beautiful gift of good health into the kid. And now comes the second approach, wherein the mothers are always, the to-be mothers are always told, you know what, you are actually living, you have a living being inside you, and you have to nurture that living being. So you need to eat more. You have to eat for 2 people now. And that's when we start eating more. That's been told to you and me as well when we were pregnant back then, right? So one doesn't need to eat for 2. One has to eat a wee bit more because, of course, the body's metabolism is a little higher. It's working extra to support a new living human being inside. But every trimester, when I say trimester, the pregnancy is divided into 9 months, and those 9 months are divided into 3, 3, 3 each. And that is known as 1 trimester each. So a trimester is nothing but the first 3 months is first trimester. The second is from your 4th to the 6th, 7th month. And then the third is from 7th month ending to the 9th month ending. Each trimester, the baby's development is different. So according to that, the mother needs only a wee bit extra. So you'll be surprised that a mother only needs, until the last trimester, only 250 calories more, which is when she reaches the last trimester. And we end up eating 500 calories more right from our first month. So that's one approach that the mother needs to avoid. Not only that it is going to help her own weight, not only it's going to help her not gain a lot of weight so that it becomes difficult later for her, but also this is where, in a way, she is instilling that idea into the newborn, into the fetus who's going to be a newborn soon, that eating right is so important. Stopping when you're eating, it is very important stopping to eat when you're full. No dietitian, no nutritionist can tell you, no, you can eat only 2 fulkas. If she's pregnant and if she's hungry, her body is telling her that she needs more. But that will only happen if she's mindfully eating it and not following an extreme approach. So I urge all the mothers to be out there, or all of them who are planning to become a mother, that you don't need to eat for two. Get into mindful eating, and your body will tell you if you are hungry, and then if you overeat it a wee bit, is not going to hurt. At the same time, you don't need a lot of calories. Every trimester, you need only a wee bit more addition of calories. And those calories coming from dense nutrients, those calories coming from wholesome natural foods is going to do you and the baby more good. Pregnancy is also a time where your protein requirements are more, because again, the body is producing new hormones even inside the fetus. The fetus is now getting ready with his own body structure, his own bones and own muscles developing. So yes, we do need a wee bit more proteins, but we don't need a wee bit more carbohydrates, even though the body is actually working extra and the body needs more calories for that energy expenditure that it is doing to build up a new human being inside. We do not need extra carbohydrates. We need adequate carbohydrates. We do need a little extra proteins. When I say that, for a normal human being, for a normal adult or a normal woman, a 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight is enough as the protein requirement for the day. So if someone is 45 kilos, 45 into 0.8 grams per kg of weight is the requirement of the protein for that woman. But if that same woman at 45 kilos is pregnant, then I would consider giving her a wee bit more, maybe 1 to 1.1 grams per kg of body weight. So yes, the protein requirement is more. The vitamins, iron and B6 vitamins required are more in pregnancy. So again here, eating wholesome grains, eating a lot of green leafy vegetables, eating good amount of good balanced of protein and plant animal proteins is going to make sure that our B6, our iron levels, and then to support the absorption of iron, a good amount of vitamin C foods included, like your citrus foods, oranges, kiwis, cherries, blueberries. I would not say blueberries yet in India. I know we have a far-fetched audience today. So blueberries, when you are living in a country where blueberries are naturally available, but otherwise in India, a guava, an orange, even a black jamun, the season that we are in, plums, peaches, these kind of fruits will help that absorption of iron better. So if a woman only sees to it that she's eating a wee bit more and she is mindfully eating, she's teaching the child inside that when to stop eating when you're full.
Very well put, Pooja. I must
I
agree.
wish I had met you, Pooja, that
Really?
time when I needed you, because I put on so much weight during my pregnancy. And everyone told me it's perfectly all right to eat as much as you want. You're pregnant. You know, you just have to feel good. But I think feeling good and eating well are two very different things.
Two very different things. And if you eat wholesome food and if you eat junk food, the feeling good matters. The period of the time that you feel good really matters. For example, I may have a burger and I may feel really good for the next 1 hour, but the next 2 hours I am going to not feel good because I'll feel bloated and my sugar levels will suddenly drop down. I'll be more irritable. I'll ask for more food again. Vis-a-vis, if I've had a good jawar ka roti or even a normal whole wheat roti and my dal and my sabzi, good amount of greens, good amount of yogurt, I am going to feel good for the next 3 hours. We had a technical glitch some time back, but I, of course, got a little worried because of the technical glitch, but I didn't feel low on energy. I was ready to fight it only because my lunch was such a wholesome lunch. So feeling good really comes in by eating food. We look at food, as a feeling of comfort most of the times. Like if you look around, if there is a ceremony, food is first considered. If there is happiness, food. If there is a reward, celebration has to be in the form of food. If you're feeling low, we look at food. But what, how much does that feeling good last after having what kind of food really matters a lot. So I would really, really again urge all the to-be mothers that of course feel good and give in to your cravings. It's okay to get those cravings of, you know, ice creams and pies, but as long as you're following the 80-20 rule, that means you're 80% of the times eating mindfully, eating what you're required to eat, nutrient dense food, wholesome food, and then 20% of actually going and eating, you know, something that just gives you happiness, is not going to hurt you.
Yes, true. And I think that's a big learning every mother here is going to take back. And I wish I had, but never mind. The rest can be happy with it. Yes. So now our next question, you know, so Pooja, right now we know the right nutrition that children get in the womb because of the mothers eating right. No? But what happens to the child when the child is an infant and just starts to eat? So, what is that mother supposed to feed an infant who is just starting to eat? Another thing is, you know, I've seen a lot of people who breastfeed for maybe 2 years or 2.5 years. Is that required? When should a mother stop breastfeeding? What is the right time to stop breastfeeding?
So ideally, an infant should be breastfed exclusively for at least 6 months, exclusively on breast milk. And then after 6 months, we need to wean them off for several reasons, because A, they are growing. Now their energy requirements are different. Now that baby is not a baby which is in your arms and lying down all the time. He's now getting to move his limbs. So of course, his expenditure of energy is more. And when we're expending energy, of course, our intake has to balance the expenditure as well. So hence, we must then start weaning them off breast milk. Not that breast milk is not enough. In a lot of places, we've seen that, you know, kids, infants are only on breast milk up till about 1 year. But we do see some development issues out there. So their bones don't completely develop. Of course, breast milk is very good. It has a lot of antibodies which fight infections. It lowers your risk of many, many diseases later in life. Babies who are fed on breast milk, you will seldom see them being colicky or even have a nappy rash. So breast milk does keep you away from infections and stuff. But at the same time, finally, breast milk is a composition of carbs, proteins, fat, and a good amount of water. So every time the child pees, excretes, he's of course emptying his gut completely. Now, when a child is moving, that much of energy is then not enough. So it's important that exclusively for 6 months, yes, breastfeed, but not up till about 2 years. That's a bit too much because your baby will not grow well for a very simple reason that the energy balance is not really happening then. Now, when one has to wean the baby off, often we must have heard this myth that, you know, you don't start your baby on fruits, or don't give your baby anything sweet, because then the baby will only want to eat sweets. So I disagree with that, because if you taste breast milk, it's very sweet. The carbohydrate content, the lactose content in breast milk is very high. So it would be wrong to say that the baby will only accept sweets if we start with a sweet fruit. Yes, ideally at 6 months, because his gut is still developing, you should ideally start with infused waters. For example, we can boil some buckwheat and we can only give the water. But try and put some cardamom in it. Cardamom is carminative. Cardamom is again very antifungal and antiviral, and it helps digestion. So try and give them cardamom infused dalia ka pani or rice water or any legumes which are boiled, and then you give them the water, for a very simple reason that their gut is really small and they're transitioning from a liquid state that we just spoke about breast milk having more water content. So they'll of course accept waters first. To immediately give them a pulp is going to be hard on their gut, no matter what it is, even if it's an apple which is being stewed, right? So first start with waters, taking in all the precautions that whenever you start anything new, wait for at least 3 days. Give the baby the same water for 3 continuous days at one specific time so that you can read the symptoms, whether the baby's body is accepting it well or not. And how to see that is, if the baby is more colicky, he's crying a lot, that means maybe the acids did not react well with the gut. The gut is not really prepared yet. Or that you see a nappy rash suddenly, or you see a skin rash, or you see the baby is sleeping more. That means the baby is not being able to digest, the gut is feeling too bloated, and the gut and the brain have a very clear interconnection between each other. So there is more serotonin produced than the usual, and the baby just wants to sleep. So that is as bad. So these are symptoms that the mothers should look for. Now, once you finished a few waters, like I said, rice water or a legumes water or a cereal water like buckwheat or whole wheat or broken wheat, then you proceed to fruits. If you want to give water from the fruit infused water, please go ahead. Because like I said, I don't agree that no, the baby is going to get used to sweets only, because it all depends on you. The more variety of food you give your toddler, so once he is 10 months and 11 months, the more variety of food you give your toddler, the more you eat in front of him the right things, the more he's going to accept it willingly. So if you want to even start with a fruit infused water, like, just boiling apple or pear and then giving that water as well, but with a little cardamom, again, I'm repeating because it's going to help them digest it better. Cardamom is going to instill more enzymes in the gut so that the baby's gut starts moving faster and starts accepting food coming from outside. And then after that, we can, so once we finish the waters, we can then, after maybe as the baby is nearing the 7th month, we can start with some stewed fruits like stewed apple or stewed pear. We can even make a pulp of some 2 vegetables. So take 2 vegetables at one time, maybe a tomato and carrot, pulp it and give him some 2-3 spoons of that. And then, of course, keeping in mind that these are the new foods that you're introducing. The baby is yet not completely relying on these foods. So, of course, continuing breastfeeding and then introducing him to these new foods. Once he's able to take most of the waters and the pulps and the body is not reacted badly, then I think in the 8th month is a good idea to start introducing porridge and start introducing milk from outside. That's when the gut is now preparing to produce more enzymes, and hence now the gut can take in more porridge and more solid food, which will remain in his stomach, in his gut for a longer time. So now is the time we can introduce one cereal porridge at one time. For example, starting with a broken wheat with some milk, and then introducing maybe 2 cereals after a week, 10 days, and so on and so forth. So this is how one can transition an infant from breast milk to liquids to semi-solids, and then comes our toddler when he's ready to take some chewables.
Okay, wonderful. So when should they stop breastfeeding? Is there a particular time which is good or what?
So as in how you transition from breast milk to all these liquids and semi-solids, your baby will give you a sign. And the best is to read your body and to read your baby's body. The more you observe your baby's fullness, the more you observe his activity and his sleeping patterns. For example, a hungry baby will never be able to sleep. But a satisfied baby will be able to sleep at least for 5 or 6 hours at a stretch. Now, if your baby is giving you those symptoms, then in that case, you're ready to wean them off from one feed in the day. And once you see him sleeping through the night, that means the night feed can be weaned off. So as in how your baby starts feeling fuller and starts liking the food from outside, the baby is going to give you signs that I don't need it. We've all been there. There are times when babies, even if they are full, but yet to sleep, they want to, they want to suckle on the breast for some time. But you'll see that by 11 months and by 12 months, the baby is going to leave that habit. He or she may just ask you to, to have that kind of comfort given to him to sleep for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and maybe once only in the day. So ideally, one should feed at least till 12 months, 6 months exclusively, and by 12 months, try and wean off the baby completely. Now, how is it not good for the mother? Breastfeeding actually is a calorie burning process, right? So when we breastfeed, when we lactate, we know that we are going to lose weight faster because that itself is a big gym that we are running inside us. But as and how the mother's requirements also change. She's now becoming more active, taking care of the baby, more of running around. She's gone through a very tough process of delivering the baby. Thank God that in our Indian customs, they ask you to rest for some days, which is so important to recover. So healing and recovering happens, and it is a great custom. It's a great ritual that we Indians follow. And then the normal life starts. After 6 months and 7 months, most of we mothers are working mothers. So you have to get back to work. Now, you don't want to feel bound, because that's going to have an impact on your emotional health. A first-time mother may say, oh no, like I'll do everything what it takes for the baby. But definitely it will have an impact if you're not going to be left with any social life. All this may sound very selfish. Oh my God, how can Pooja say this? It doesn't matter. But it definitely matters because in the subconscious, you're missing out on a lot of me time, and that will affect your health. So you will either see so many mothers come to me and I see them, and they've not gained a lot of weight during pregnancy. They've in fact lost most of the weight that they have gained in the first 6 months, but then they suddenly gain. Why is that happening? Because you're tired, you don't have any me time. And then when the baby goes off to sleep, the only resort you have is to watch TV and nibble on food because you're looking towards food as a comfort food, right? So we don't want to reach there. Now, this is psychologically bringing the mother's health down, right? And it is very important because our emotional health really rules our physical health. Now comes physically. The requirements are changing. The mother is now more active. The rest period is over. Now most of the family is going to be on their own. They're not going to be around the baby because the baby needs more attention. So now you have lesser help around. You have to go to work. You are running around the baby. You're physically tired. So if you're going to, and of course, most of the mothers, and which is very so ideally right to do, most of the mothers are getting back to working out properly, right? So now you're expending more energy by breastfeeding your child, again, if you are exclusively, but what you're eating is not right because now you don't have enough time for yourself. You start neglecting your health and you start seeing deficiencies. So that's when hair fall and dry skin, irritability, weight gain, and I won't be surprised if a GERD or an IBS or frequent headaches and migraines happen, and we look out for excuses that, you know what, I'm too tired, I'm not sleeping well because of the baby, and that's the reason I have headaches and migraines. But for all you know, maybe there's a deficiency inside. Your energy balance is not being taken care of. So it's very important that the mothers do look out for support. There's nothing wrong. In fact, it's the right thing that you're doing for your baby by giving him the right food at the right age. He needs nutrition and you need to look after your well-being as well.
True, true. I think it's very important to understand the needs of the child and also your own needs.
Yes.
And I think it's not only about physical health right now. And what you said was so right. It's also about your mental state. You are happy. A happy mother has a happy child.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Yes.
Pooja now from the child was a infant first. Now he's become a toddler. He starts going to school. So what is the wholesome diet for a preschooler according to you?
So of course, I would stick to my one rule that try and not give him junk food A lot of times, this is the age when the toddler cries and we look at giving him a chocolate or giving him some pancakes just to make him feel happy so that, he's off my chase and, I am sorted. But that is where we are setting a wrong example. So at all times, if we can stick to natural foods, in fact, I would love to share a few recipes today by the end of this session, wherein mothers can actually make healthier pancakes at home. They can actually make healthier chocolates at home. So giving them wholesome food is going to make sure that their energy is balanced, and at the same time, their hormones are balanced. Why do we adults get irritable or snappy? Is because when we don't eat for long hours, or when we eat too much of junk food, which kind of raises my sugar levels, I start feeling good and I'm like, wow, I can do this. I'm not in a bad mood now. And after an hour, suddenly I see a low down in my energy levels. I again become irritable and I again try to open all the cabinets and the drawers. Is there something, I just want one bite. Maybe just that one bite is going to help me. So that's exactly what happens to a toddler. Your toddler is no different from you now. He's as good as an adult when it comes to eating, when it comes to physical needs, when it comes to emotional needs. And at the same time, they are smart cookies. They are really smart cookies. They know how to get their way out. So they will sense your emotion. They will sense how you react to their demands, and they will actually attack you at that time. So the first rule, if you don't, if you don't stock your pantries with too much of junk food, rather have all healthier alternatives. The second, try and again follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of the times, their plate should have wholesome foods. So their stomachs are really small. And we cannot decide the portion, they decide the portion, and we will know it from their behavior. So a mother who really observes her kid continuously and doesn't let the maid or the servants feed the toddler will actually know how much does my toddler need at one time. So in his plate, if you can put maybe a little bit of vegetables, a very little of cereal, and a good amount of protein, a good amount of good fats in the form of coconut butter, coconut oil, nuts, or some seeds, powdered and given to him. I shall be sharing a recipe of a nice truffle which you can put on his plate, which will look like as if he's getting a treat, but it is so full of fats and good vitamins, minerals, and proteins. So see to it that his plate is colorful and it has one element from each macronutrient. So they should have some grains, they should have a good amount of fiber in the form of either a fruit or a vegetable, and they should have a good amount of protein and a good amount of fat. Many people say, teach them to sip water in between their food. I would say no. Because as I said, a toddler is as good as an adult. So now is the time to teach him that no, it's not right to sip water while eating, because then we are diluting all our enzymes and hence digestion is going to take a back role. And at the same time, diluting all the nutrients that I'm eating. So he should know that eating time is eating time, and only after some time he needs to drink something. This will also help you actually inculcate the idea of him not asking for fizzy drinks or juices. So the biggest mistake parents do is give them a Tetra Pak or give them a juice, even if it is freshly squeezed juice. They don't need that juice. A fruit will give him more fiber, and that fruit is going to get absorbed slowly. So he will learn that he has to chew everything, and that's how eating times are. So the second rule is to let them decide the portions, but see to it that your plate has each component of every nutrient, and let them decide what they want to eat. Because by the 6th and the 7th day, you will know what your child really likes. The third rule, don't sit and spend hours in the kitchen cooking different meals for them. They are too small to know that, oh my God, this is one, like in the lockdown, what we wives have ended up doing, every day a fancy meal. So the toddlers don't care. They don't know, oh my God, there is so much of a variety of recipes available and tastes available. So keep it simplistic. Don't change their food too often, because the more you change their food too often, the more fussy they are going to become. If tomorrow I tell my people that, you know what, I'm tired, and for the next 2 days only khichdi is going to be made, I'll see only swollen faces around, right? Because I've got the palate used to restaurant food every day now.
Right.
So don't do the same thing with your toddler. He is an adult like you. Don't give him too many options. Give him simple food. You don't need to try different recipes so that he tries to like food. He has to like food as it is. And this is the right time to instill that habit into him. The fourth rule, he has to learn to eat by himself also. So let eating also be a playtime, and you feed him how much ever he's accepting it. And after some time, don't be a cleanliness personified parent and take the food away, and it shouldn't be messy. Let him play with that food, because that's when he is going to actually observe the textures and the taste, and the joy of eating is only going to come in through that. So do that. Fifth rule, yes, we have to introduce them to a long list of foods around us. Yes, I want him to have bananas and watermelon and muskmelon and every possible fruit. And I want him to have radish. I want to have him to have beans and carrots and turnips, everything. But be patient. Introduce new foods with his plate, which is like this much. So like I said, the plate should have each component of every nutrient. Then the new food should just come as a small bite every, 2-3 days. And that's when he'll be able to accept that new food. And that's when you will see you're not building fussy eaters. You're building healthy eaters in the future. So this is the main age where parents can actually work either on a fussy eater or a healthy eater.
Wonderful, huh? Really
I think
nice.
parents should actually decide how much is the portion they want to give the child, because they don't overfeed the child, I feel.
Yes,
Not
I
required
agree
at
to
all.
this. And they forget that they have small stomachs. Rather feed them more frequently. Give them 6 meals in the day, but give them little, and they're very happy digesting that little food.
Leela, does
because-
it remind you of the dabbas that come to school?
Woi to, yes, multiple dabbas.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because if he likes it, first give him this. If he doesn't like, then give him this. And lastly, give him this, because that's a treat for the child.
So this is where we are building a fussy eater, and then we complain, oh my God, my child is such a fussy eater.
Yes, yes.
So
And
yeah,
then you
so
get two
mothers-
big parathas. So the child has to finish those 2 parathas. So
Parathas.
yeah.
It's a
So,
lot for a small child to finish.
correct. So good. Now I'm so happy. A lot of parents are hearing this, and they know that baby stomachs are so tiny, and we want the stomachs to be so tiny. So
And trust me,
Like
more
that.
than us, our kids are smarter. So in fact, at that age, they know when to stop. We don't know when to stop, because we may just get carried away talking to a friend, or because the food is yummy and we'll say, okay, you know what, aadha paratha aur khate hain. But a kid will never do that. He knows where to stop. So respect that.
wonderful. So right now, Pooja, we see that all these parks are closed. Children by and large are indoors, and especially because of the circumstances right now, everybody is at home. The exercise is absolutely, it's not the way it should be done or in the place that it should be done in. And we're seeing a rising amount of obesity anyway in children. So this is a big concern for parents, and what can parents do so that their child doesn't become obese? Also, I want to know, is this a hereditary thing? So does it come genetically, or is it something that, it's up to us that we can control?
So I'm so glad you actually brought up this obesity in children. We are the third largest now as a country, where we have obese children, and at the same time we're only increasing. If you look at the statistics from 2005 to 2015, we had already increased by 8.2%, and between 2015 and 2020 we've now increased to 10.2%. So My advice during the lockdown would be throw away the gadgets. Stop being on them. You are setting an example, and let's accept it. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Reels is a new thing. TikTok has finally left us. So we are actually on them most of the times. Which parent, or I would say, I challenge today all the parents out here, I'm challenging y'all. Can y'all inculcate a habit first in y'all that 2 hours before sleeping, you don't touch your phone or your laptop or the TV 1 hour before, at least 1 hour before bedtime, switch it off. And when you wake up, don't touch your gadgets for another 1.5 hours. So first, can you do that? Because you're setting an example. Back then, we used to read books. That's the reason I remember when my daughter was born, I used to read a lot of books then. So she used to see me reading books, and I had to get her books because she was so interested in looking at the pictures. But by the time my son was born, phones were already here. I didn't see him as excited about books. Of course, he reads a lot of books now. But back then, when he was a child, he didn't, because I didn't set that example, because I had a new toy with me. I mean, if I'm appalled to see when you go to a toy shop, you have computers now as toys, right? You have phones as toys, and some high-tech computers are also available for toddlers, where they're doing most of their games on the computers. Of course, many parents will disagree with me, because this is the time the lockdown has actually got us hooked onto our screens. This is how we all are surviving. Classes are happening online. But especially so for children, we have to set aside a time. Play is just vanished. It's disappeared. Do our kids know what kabaddi means? Do our kids know what dog and the bone means? They don't. They know Monopoly, and they know sequence, and they know life. And there are times that I am technologically challenged, and my sister-in-law's child, a 10-year-old, teaches me, you know what, mommy, you can do this, because he knows more than me. So why? It's because the exposure to the gadgets is more. So I would not say, food. I would say first get them to move more. Now, there is one interesting point here. The more sedentary your lifestyle, the less you produce the human growth hormone. And this is their age to grow. This is when their bones develop. This is when their brain develops. This is when your height, most of the kids today come to me, can we increase height? Can you give us food? Otherwise, we are going and taking shots, because so-and-so doctor is saying he will give me shots and my height can increase. Are you guaranteeing me that I can increase my height? But all I can say is, when was the last time you hung yourself towards a rod? When was the last time you went into a park? Okay, we are in a lockdown now, but when was the last time you did any kind of pull-ups or cycling or swimming? None of us. I mean, none of them are doing it. So the first thing is, if you are going to have a sedentary lifestyle, your human growth hormone is going to go down. All those parents who are worried about the lockdown, I would say first, because you guys are around most of the times around your kids now, since it's the lockdown, can you first cut down the timing of you spending time on your gadgets? And instead, in that much time, the lobby around in the building, or the terrace of the building, or in your drawing room, can you play a little game with your kids, which involves endurance activity, which involves the heartbeat racing, because that will get the human growth hormone to grow more, and that's when you will see your child growing more. Now, coming to the food, as I said, don't stock your pantry with a lot of food, which is not good for them. Packaged foods. A lot of times we buy packaged foods which says low carb food and low sugar foods. But do we go inside and read the ingredients? Most of the sugars, we cannot even pronounce them. I have a tough time sometimes reading those sugar names. So malt extract, HFC, the high fructose syrup, corn syrup, glutamase, sucralose, or maltodextrins, the date syrups. These are all sugars which are added to the product. But the FDA says as long as you're not putting pure sugar, you can call your product a low sugar product. But then we are giving those to our children, right? So that is where you need to make a change. Read the labels properly. MSG. We've started going to Chinese restaurants and we say, you know what, I don't want this if it has MSG. How do we know? Unless someone, you know, who's very sensitive to MSG gets those tingling sensations or, you know, swelling around in the nerves, and, you know, they know that, oh my God, this had MSG. But a lot of products, if you see, most of your noodles have MSG. So rather stick to home food, rather get them. Now is the time, the lockdown, go to supermarkets, take them along. Help them to read the labels, help them to read the sugars. The dinner table is the right time to bond. Most of the families are together. So bond with your kids, even if they are as old as 5 years, you can create a conversation, a game around this, and talk about how harmful these sugars are and how we can read labels. YouTube, in fact, you know, and then show them some sites where, you know, they talk about sugars and how to recognize that those sugars are bad, and then ask them also to get involved in cooking with you. That's when you will see a change in your child. The child is getting active. Second, the child is not getting bored, so doesn't want to use the gadgets. Third, the child is not being told, hello, you can't eat this, you have to stop eating this, this is not good. But you're eating it, you're still buying it, you're still getting that same noodles ka packet at home. Then how can you ask your child to not eat? So that's when a conversation on these foods, that you should eat this and you should not eat this and why you should not eat this, will help. So I feel increase their activities, and at the same time stop buying foods which are not supposed to be had, which are supposed to be had as an occasional treat, and at the same time teaching them most of the times to eat the right food, not telling them to eat the right food, but talking to them about what right food is. And that's going to go a long way. And so that's when the obesity rates will come down.
So is the obesity hereditary or is it genetic? What is it?
So Amrita, you're very right on this. Yes, most of our lifestyle diseases like thyroid, diabetes, obesity, yes, genetics does play an important role. But over the 10 years that I have consulted, a lot of times when people enter my clinic and they say, oh, you know what, I have this because it's hereditary. And I tell them, no, because it's an excuse for you. Hereditary as a factor should be used as the last factor. Let's first analyze that, am I eating right? Am I being sedentary? Am I not drinking enough water? Is my gut health good? Very, very, very important. Am I going to the loo and actually, being able to, excrete every toxin in the morning, and I'm not constipated for days? Am I sleeping well? How are my relationships with others? Is my mental health okay? Am I a happy individual? When all these answers are yes, and yet you are obese, then I would say yes, hereditary is a factor. But we are not following those 7 other rules. None of us is happy with what we have. None of us is drinking the amount of water that we should. So let's first make a change, and a healthier it has to be a conscious effort, and it has to be a consistent effort. And then after 3 months, if you still don't lose weight, or if you're still on the obese side, that's when I would say, yes, hereditary is a factor. In fact, I must cite an example here. Just about a month back, I had this mother who was really paranoid call me up, and she's called me several times back in the year also, very worried about her kid who studies in LA. And she's like, he's really gained a lot of weight, and what should I do? And finally, fortunately or unfortunately, I think fortunately for him, he's here now because of the lockdown. And when I spoke to him first, mother was just not very confident. She's like, Pooja, he cannot live without his parathas. He needs a burger every second day. वो कोक के बगैर तो खाना ही नहीं खा सकता है. How are you going to do this? And he doesn't move. So Instead of consulting him only once, the first appointment literally is, I have a 1.5 to 2 hours of appointment with, of a conversation with the person. This went on for 3 days. I literally broke down the appointment every day for 45 minutes. And 3 to 4 days we were, talking to each other. And you'll be surprised. He's lost in 21 days 11 kilos.
Wow.
11 kilos. And by what change? By me just asking him, no workouts. I don't want you to go to the gym. I don't want you to do heavy workouts. I only want you to get up every 1 hour and walk for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is what we started with. Of course, now he's so motivated that he goes for a 50 minutes walk outside in the building. And plus he continues walking 5 minutes in between whenever he likes to. But his speedometer should show me 12,000 steps every day is what our prerequisite is with him. And he's eaten all the healthy foods, and mother again called me that should we give him a cheat meal now because he's lost 11 kilos. And this was just in the afternoon today. I said, do you want to give him because you're feeling guilty, or has he asked for it? And he says, no, you know what, Pooja auntie, I don't want. I'm very happy with what you've given me. I don't want a burger. So he was supposed to be a bariatric patient. They were considering him to go through the bariatric surgery. And I told them, no, give me 3 months. And in 21 days, he's lost so much. So this is what it does. Healthy eating, discipline, consistency. And it really doesn't take a lot because you're eating balanced meals, because you're eating so regularly, your gut, your brain, both are really happy. So no, hereditary should not be considered as a factor.
So there goes that excuse for everybody.
Yes.
I swear.
Oh, good.
So, Pooja, we all love to eat outside food, like you know. It's very tasty and yummy.
Yes.
So how can you make this food nutritious and homemade? Like you said, you're going to share some nice recipes with us. So could you
Yes.
just share a couple of recipes?
Sure. First, before sharing it for kids, I have curated some recipes for these kids, especially today. But for adults, I would say that whatever you like, pick up the dish. For example, let's pick up the burger. And in the lockdown, we've got this opportunity now to try things. We have the time also. We have the inclination also. So pick up the patty. Instead of frying it, air fry it, or shallow fry it on your tawa. So there you've cut down your oil intake. Instead of putting cheese, why don't we make homemade paneer at home and crumble that homemade paneer? For all those who are lactose intolerant, they can even make vegan cheeses at home. Very easy to make from almonds and cashews. And in fact, they're so tasty. So cheese can be replaced by homemade paneer or by vegan cheeses. The sauces, the soya sauce and the ketchup, which have extra salt in them, we can actually start making these sauces at home. And it's very easy. You just have to Google. All you have to do is wherever the sugar content is mentioned, cut down the sugar content. So we can make green chutney at home. We can make pesto sauces at home. We can make tomato ketchup at home. And there we have the sauces ready. Instead of mayo, a lot of kids are too used to mayos. We can do the hunker dressing. And in the hunker dressing, because you want that creamy feel, I would say make hunkers, put a dollop of almond cheese, which is made at home. Or many people now are doing vegan cheeses, and stir it up and you'll have your mayonnaise kind of a consistency ready. Instead of buns, we can actually look at whole wheat buns, which are available outside. Most of the home bakers now are in fact making really good breads at home. So why not do that? One tip here is whenever you read a label, whenever you buy something from outside, and if in the ingredients list, the first ingredient says wheat flour or refined flour, very obviously, or maida, then believe it that it is most of 80% of the ingredient in that is maida, because the dominant ingredient is listed first in the ingredients list. So even if the bread loaf says rye bread, it's not a rye bread because rye is maybe only 5% of it, because it's the third ingredient in the list. So try and make healthier alternatives. Now, how you would be able to still satisfy and feel that, yes, this is my burger, is when you connect with your food. So switch off your mobile phones, don't look at that Insta feeds, and switch off the TV, connect with everybody at home. Talk about happier moments through the day. I know in the lockdown it's been difficult to talk about happier moments, but I did this and my jar is full right now. I started writing two things which were making me feel good during the lockdown. And the days when I am low, I don't even have to read the whole jar. I mean, I don't have to topple down the whole jar. Some two or three chits, they make me feel good. Oh my God, this had happened, and I'm feeling so good about it. So try and enjoy the happier moments, and that's when you will not remember the restaurant food. You will feel, yes, this is giving me good happiness. So all you need to do is healthier alternatives. Think of them, learn to cook them. It's very easy. Now is in fact the right time to invest in cooking and learning, and at the same time eating regular meals. So if you're going to eat every 2 to 3 hours, your body is not going to feel completely drained, and then you won't even reach out for another burger. You'll be happy with that one burger. I won't even say cut out the bun and take a lettuce and then have that as a burger. No, I would not say that. Enjoy your carbohydrates, but just change the quality of carbohydrates that you're having. Now, Bela, you asked me recipes for kids. So the first thing I want to change is the pancakes, because the kids really like pancakes, right? So I have made a recipe. I can even email it to them. I will right now just tell you the recipe, but I'll email the recipe so that all our parents can have it. Now this pancake can be made. You can make the powder, store it in an airtight container. Whenever your child wants it, all you have to do is just remove the mixture and make it for him. So what I do is I take half a cup of banana flour. Banana as a fruit is very heavy in starch. It has more glucose, but when you process the banana flour and the seeds and the plant, and the flour that comes out of banana is not as starchy, it has very little sugar units in it. So half a cup of banana flour, half a cup of jawar flour, half a cup of whole wheat flour, and half a cup of coconut flour. Mix all of these flours together. Put a tablespoon of raw cacao in it. Raw cacao really helps in controlling your sugar levels, and at the same time it gives the taste buds. You feel you're having something chocolatey. Kids want that taste. So raw cacao, and you can put 2 tablespoons of jaggery powder or coconut palm sugar. Not that sugar, honey, jaggery, they are not any different. A teaspoon of sugar, honey, jaggery carries the same amount of calories, the same amount of glucose. But the only difference is that a coconut palm sugar and a jaggery is less processed. So it takes time to actually get assimilated and digested in the body inside. The body has to work extra, at least for that assimilation to happen. So the sugar rise in the blood is not very high. So look out for alternative sugars like jaggery or coconut palm sugar, or even dates is a good option. So you can put 2 tablespoons of the jaggery powder or coconut palm sugar, a pinch of rock salt that gives any sweet dessert. The salt really brings up the sweetness more. So put all of this together and put it in an airtight container. I forgot to mention, roast the flours and then keep them together. Just mix them up. Now, whenever you have to make it for your child, apple or banana. If you're using apple, then you have to take the pains of making an apple sauce. That means making a stewed apple, boiling it, and then beating it. If you're taking a banana, just mash the banana, put it in this flour. If your child can eat egg, 1 egg. If cannot eat egg, then put 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, which you've soaked for a longer time. Put into the pancake. Add some milk, coconut milk, normal cow's milk, whatever you prefer. Mix it up, whip it up, and your pancakes are ready. Now, don't use the maple syrups or the honeys. Instead, the same jaggery that you used, you can just take some hot water. Never ever heat the jaggery directly on the flame. So take some hot water, put the jaggery, melt it, put it on top, and put some fresh berries. Now we have cherries available. Put those cherries, put the mangoes, and you'll love the pancakes. And it's going to be the same pancake that your child was used to.
Yeah.
My mouth
It
is
sounds
already
so
watering.
tasty.
So this pancake, 2 pancakes will give you about 110 calories only. It will give you a good amount of iron, a good amount of protein, and really good fats, omega-3s available. If you're adding in egg, then the protein content any which ways increases in the pancake. What more would we want? We have our, our favorite food, but it's being made so healthy and so nutritious.
I know. I think I want to go in right now after this
And
and
eat this.
buy everything and get it all ready for my pancakes.
I'll be so glad to see you eating that.
Wonderful. I know. It really will satiate all those cravings and everything for eating outside food.
So I have curated about 3 more recipes for the kids, and I'll be happy to share it with all of you guys. We can email it to them, we can post it on our accounts, and they can really benefit from them. The another recipe is a truffle, which I said that you can actually put it in the toddler's plate, telling him this is your treat, but actually you're giving him the best protein and omega-3 fats. So that's how we can actually get them to eat healthier treats as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We're looking forward to all our
Super.
viewers
Great.
getting all this. We have 1 or 2 questions over here.
Sure.
So we should take those questions actually.
Definitely, yes.
So there are also with the questions, we've got some very nice things said about you, Pooja. Harpal Kaur has said, Pooja gives such practical tips, not very rigid, very easy to follow. And Chanchal Singh says that the food is the soul to the heart, and it is very good. So very nice, really. But the question I have here is from Adhira. Adhira says, how do you build the immunity of a 5-year-old child who has not taken mother's feed for even 1 day?
Okay. So was there a reason, A, to not take the mother's feed? Was the child sick and couldn't take milk? Breast milk, that's one factor that we need to consider here. Nevertheless, it's not ever late. Even the adults at this point of time can again start rebuilding our immunity. So the first thing, Adira, you should make sure is consider a rainbow, because right now immunity is vitamin C, because we have to prevent ourselves from a respiratory tract infection, COVID-19, which attacks our respiratory tract. We need vitamin C, and at the same time, we need ingredients or herbs and spices which are going to keep our respiratory tract very, very clear. So a small concoction here that I would like to mention, and if you can note it down, or I can always pass it on in writing later. This is for everyone, even adults can have it. Now, when you're giving this to kids, of course, the herbs and spices are a little pungent. So I would consider adding a little jaggery powder before serving, right before serving, and giving it to them, and not giving them too hot, too piping hot. The adults can, of course, decide if they like having it piping hot. In fact, this is what I'm having right now, and I love having it every day, at least 2 to 3 times I have it. Now, the first thing, why am I telling you? This is not going to increase his immunity. We are just protecting him from any nasal infection, and so that the mucus doesn't build in. COVID-19 will attack you if you have enough mucus here. This is the area, this nasal passage, wherein if we have a lot of mucus, the passage of the virus is going to be very fast. But if our passage is clear and there is more oxygen availability there, the virus cannot pass in. The cilia, the hair right here in our nose, are going to attack it right there. So it's like I am putting soil around here, which is wet. Of course, it's going to block the area, right? So if I have mucus, it is moisture, right? It's blocking. It's going to block the cilia. So any germs and any virus can enter because my cilia is blocked with the mucus. So that's exactly what we are doing, keeping the nasal cavity, keeping us completely free from mucus. Take 2 glasses of water, put about 1 inch of turmeric. Turmeric is anti-inflammatory, anti-allergic, antiviral. Okay, so that's going to do its wonders. So put about 1 inch of turmeric, put a little bit of lemongrass. Lemongrass avoids yeast growth in the body. In fact, mothers, a lot of times we see a lot of yeast growth infections. So, we women go through these kind of infections, start having a lemongrass infused tea 2 to 3 times, and that should help you. So we are putting lemongrass in this. Lemongrass also helps you with bloating and inflammation inside. So if the respiratory tract is inflamed, it helps you with that. Then we are putting fennel seeds. Fennel seeds is nothing but keeping our gut health good. Every ailment starts with your digestive system being bad. So if your digestive system is good and healthy, you will not get any other disease. So to keep that digestive tract really healthy, we are putting fennel seeds here so that the acid production in the body is less. And hence, we are giving fennel seeds as a calmative, which soaks in the extra acids produced in the body. So our gut health is taken care of. Now comes your cardamom and jeera. So jeera is again a herb which is a electrolyte balancer. It will have all the 3 salts present in it in the right proportion. So why do we need salts? Because again, when there is an imbalance of electrolytes in the body is when we start getting infections, because our body is in a dehydrated state. We don't want that, right? So that's when the cells are not getting enough oxygen, enough water. The mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, does not function well. So jeera is an excellent herb when it comes to giving an electrolyte balance in the body. So we are repeating: lemongrass, turmeric, fennel seeds, jeera, and now comes the 5th ingredient, and that is your pepper. Why are we putting pepper? Because pepper helps you against cough and congestions, and pepper will always help the absorption of turmeric. Turmeric is actually a very, very strong herb. Curcumin is very strong to get broken down inside in the body. Pepper actually helps. The pungency that is present in the pepper helps. Another thing that you will see in this is, if you look at it closely, it has got all the possible 6 tastes that your tongue should get. Fennel is sweet, your pepper is pungent, turmeric is actually supposed to be bitter if you have it. Then you have your jeera, which is a little astringent in taste. If you keep chewing jeera for a long time, you will feel astringent taste inside. So that's what the Ayurveda principles say, that when we have all 6 tastes present in our tongue, that's when we are getting every nutrient from every vitamin and every mineral from everywhere. So this is what the concoction also does to you. I shall again post it, of course, so that you guys can benefit from it. And and lemongrass is sweet. Fennel and lemongrass is sweet. So that's how we have all the possible tastes around which are present in our tongue. This concoction is taking care of that. So first, start giving him that, maybe only 2 tablespoons to start with. He's just a 5-year-old. Another thing that you should do is consider giving him a rainbow. When I say rainbow, don't force him to have all the vegetables and fruits in one day, but see to it that you do give him 1 orange fruit in a day, 1 red vegetable or fruit in a day. So it could be a tomato, beetroot, carrot, or an apple. Consider giving him a yellow food in some way. So it could be your yellow pepper, it could be a zucchini, it could be a yam, okay, the yellow melon we call it. So that as a fruit, you can make a pumpkin soup, pumpkin, not a melon. So consider giving a plethora of vegetables, different colors to him. See to it that he's not compromising on his protein and his energy giving nutrients, which is carbohydrate. So how would you now take care of it? He's just a 5-year-old. If you can give him 1 portion of carbohydrate and half a portion of protein to start his morning, 1 portion of carbohydrate and 1 portion of protein in the afternoon, 1 portion of carbohydrate and 1 portion of protein again in the night. Why am I saying to start with a lesser protein is because generally a child as old as a 5-year-old will not accept too much food, but his energy levels are much higher. He's much more active than what we are. So that's the reason we don't want to cut down on his carbohydrate intake. And immunity cells are what? Finally, every cell has to function. To function, they need the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cells, to be filled with glucose and good energy. And that will come from the right carbohydrates. So see to it that you cut down his junk food completely, give him wholesome foods, the pancakes that we just spoke about. I'll be soon writing the truffles recipe. You can do that. Give him sweet potato, which is very good in iron, and make that as one of his mid meals. There's nothing wrong in having a boiled sweet potato. Won't give him weight gain, and it will in fact give him the right iron that he needs. So if his hemoglobin, if his RBCs are more, again, he will fight any infection. So that's what you can least do. And at the same time, do not give him the gadgets. See to it that he is inactive enough through the day.
My God, this was wonderful. I love that rainbow. Bela, that was such a
Yes.
nice thing about giving all these colorful vegetables to the child, and it's so nicely put like a rainbow. So you're not even going to forget it, you know, about
Right.
what it is.
Oh
So
yes, yeah.
when-
You can
Yeah.
actually play a game with him.
correct.
So sweet.
So did you complete eating your rainbow today? Could be the game. Wow, very, very nice. Really nice.
We
I
have
want to say
another-
thank you so much.
We have
Would
another
I-
question from Anjali Sharma.
What
She
is
wants to know that what we do for the constipation of a 4-year-old child.
Is his water
Child is
intake good?
constipated. Yeah.
So A, is his water intake good? Or second, is he moving enough? Now I'll explain you, as Gro said it may sound, but let me explain you something about constipation. Constipation, whatever we eat, does get digested, broken down into simple substances, and some of it is not required by the body. And that's the roughage we have, which is not required by the body, which attaches itself to the toxins. What are these toxins? Your body at all times, millions of cells are being broken down, are dying, and a million of new cells are being made. That's how your body functions. So a lot of toxins, that means dead cells and whatever the body doesn't need, has been actually produced in the body itself, and it has to be thrown out now, right? So this process goes on 24/7. Now, let's imagine a pipe, a very simple, sleek pipe. It has got 2 holes. If I am going to put anything from this end, it has to come out from this end. So this is my first pipe. I'm putting anything inside it. It goes down, it gets digested, broken down. And like we discussed, now some of it has to leave. So that's where our anus comes into function, right? Now, if you imagine that you have cement, I am putting some cement, which is hard. Cement's density is hard. So I am putting it through the pipe. Is it going to pass by smoothly? No, because it's hard. So it may pass through the pipe and it will get stuck. I am adding some sand into this. So now the passage is going to get smoother. Maybe some of it is going to pass through. But after some 2-3 trials, again, there will be a lot of sand which would have accumulated on the sides of the pipe, and the cement would have got stuck. And now the pipe's passage becomes again smaller, right? Now I am adding water into it. The moment I'm taking the cement and the sand and the water, I make soft balls out of it. And now when I pass that soft ball, it just rolls off and it is out. So the cement is the undigested food particles that you have. The sand is the roughage, that means the fiber that you give your body, which is in the form of whole grains, fruit peels, vegetables, and fruits. I said fruit peels separately because most of us now have started peeling our fruits, which is not important. Peeling our badams after soaking. No, why? We need that fiber. That's the roughage. So the moment all of this is together, now the sand is the fiber, the cement is the undigested food that we need to get rid of. The water is doing the work of forming these together into a soft ball, and then you pass your stools without any problem. So you have the answer now. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
So well, we explained everything.
Yeah. Are you
Superb.
giving your child enough fiber? Are you giving your child enough water? And is your child eating slowly? Is it that the undigested food is so much that the fiber in the water is falling short. So play with your child, see to that he eats, he chews his food slowly, and that food is getting broken down slowly and very well into fine particles. That's what you need to look at. Don't get him to laxatives. First, correct all these 4 things. If he still has constipation, that is when I will give you any other remedy for it.
Wonderful. Really nice. I want to say thank you, Pooja. This was so amazing. I think there
Thank
was
you
so
so
many
much.
things right from the child, right from conception and pregnancy. We went on through the whole journey of a preschooler till, you know, his whole healthy journey
Yes.
was sort of exemplified it so beautifully. And thank you so much. We're
So
going
glad
to
that
take,
I could be of help on this platform. Thank you so much for inviting me.
we're going to take all those recipes from you and post them on the
Definitely.
ABCD page. So
Yes.
everybody, y'all are going to be able to see that soon. Pooja will give it to us by tonight, I guess, or tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we'll put it up over there for all of you to sort of build on your health and stay healthy, stay happy.
Thank
Wonderful.
you so much.
Thank you, Pooja, from my side as
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Bella.
want to take this opportunity for a minute to thank all the attendees. Thank you so much for your patience. You know, you all waited for about 25 minutes, and we really acknowledge that. We had some technical issues and we couldn't just get, you know, things moving. But all of you waited, and thank you so much. Thank you very much for all your you know, support and your love. And we are out here only wanting to give you something that you should find value in. So wonderful. Stay tuned for next Wednesday. And we have Leena Asher coming over here. And she's going to be speaking on resilience and the art of bouncing back. So join us on the 29th at 4 p.m. for a conversation with Leena, where we are going to discuss how our childhood experiences alter our resilience. So bye-bye, everyone. Bye, Pooja.
Bye-bye. See you. Take care.
Yes.
Bye, Pooja. Thank you.
Bye.